Silence, wonderful. Let me call this meeting to order, please. This is the Jackson County Board of Supervisors, September the 18th, 2023 meeting. We will have our opening prayer. Mr. Randy, is it still this month?
I've asked our County Administrator, Brian Fulton, to lead us in that prayer this morning.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy. If you would bow your heads with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you today for your love, your mercy, and your grace. God, thank you for the beautiful place that we call home. God, be with us today as we conduct the county's business and let the decisions be pleasing in your sight. And Lord, just draw us into a deeper relationship with you so that you would be glorified in the lives that we live. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's start off with item 4, amendments to the agenda. Mr. Cumbest.
I don't have any.
Mr. Morris.
I don't have anything.
I have 2. One is a potential litigation issue, and also I would like, another item would be the status of the Singing River Health System. And those 2 would be for executive session. Mr. Ross?
None.
Mr. Bosarge? None. Mr. Eldridge?
I have one that can go under consent. It's a resolution amending the county budget to actuals for the fiscal year September 30th, 2023.
Okay, Mr. Fulton?
I have one. John Lockard is here and needs to speak to the board regarding our health plan. I'd like to put that under presentations, item B.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill? None. Mr. Palmer?
None.
Are there any others that have an...
I have an amendment for human resources under consent for personnel budget requests under employee information. You've been provided a copy.
Okay. And yes, ma'am.
I have an amendment to the operating transfers under my section, finance.
Okay, where is that in the...
Under finance, Amanda.
Okay. Okay, we need an order approving the amendments to the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Cumbest, seconded by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Carries. We'll go to item number 5. I see a lot of people here this morning. I'm glad to see that. Item number 5 is general public comments. If anyone has any item they would like to bring forth, please come to the podium and do it now. Okay, going twice. Any general public comments? Okay, we'll move along to item number 6, the consent agenda itself. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. Mr. Ross, I will second it. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now to page 4, item 7, department heads. Mr. Calmer?
Yes, sir. Mr. Taylor, I'd put
three, maybe they could have been put under consent, but I think Sue is here. I put three interlocal agreements on the agenda, and then there's a lease termination agreement along with some other documents related to Chevron and the repayment of some debt back from 1981. And Sue, if you could run through these real quick and we can get them knocked out.
Okay, the first one is a resolution approving the form and appointing the execution and delivery of an interlocal cooperation agreement with the city of Moss Point, Mississippi, in connection with the insurance of said city of tax increment financing bonds in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $5 million for the purpose of providing financing for all or a portion of the cost of certain infrastructure improvements in connection with a redevelopment project with the county and said city and for related purposes. It's the Chief 7 LLC issue, and that was all one sentence, I believe. How about that? Okay, we need a motion for that resolution and a second.
So moved. Let him make it.
Motion by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Cumbus. Any discussion?
Sue's our discussion. Sue's our discussion.
Okay.
So this is, back in June, you approved, authorized entering into a tax increment financing with the city of Moss Point to help finance infrastructure improvements for the Chief Automotive Group. And they, their dealership is the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram dealership that's being constructed in Moss Point. The city has agreed to issue tax increment financing bonds in amount not to exceed $5 million for this project, and the county has agreed to participate in that by pledging to the payment of debt service on those bonds up to 75% of the increase in taxes from that project. So this interlocal agreement covers that agreement with the city, and we're asking for approval of that interlocal agreement.
And when those funds come in, we will cut the check to the city since they'll be paying the debt.
Right. They will bill you periodically for that. You'll have your own account that you'll collect those funds in. And then prior to the bond payment becoming due, they'll bill you for that, and then you'll pay it over.
So these bonds, they won't be issued until the project's complete?
That's correct. So the project will be complete and will be on the rolls and producing taxes.
Correct.
How long will the bonds be for?
Not to exceed 15 years. Now, it will depend really on the market at the time as to what we could sell them, you know, how long they can go out for and how much money the actual developer will actually get from it, what the interest rate will be, but the term is not to exceed 15 years.
Okay. There's probably no issue with interest rates currently.
Well, interest rates are high right now, so all that really means is less money to the developer. So whatever the interest rate is, all of it's coming out of the tax increment.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, if not, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
So
And
the next one is the Canon dealership, and it is very similar, almost identical to the Chief, not to exceed $5 million, same pledge from the county, up to 75% of your increase in taxes from that project. And that is the Nissan and Ford Lincoln dealerships that are being constructed in Moss Point.
And Sue, am I correct that those two projects roughly about 60 to 70 million in investment?
That's correct, yes.
okay, any discussion? Pardon?
He made a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Cumbus. Any discussion on this one? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
So the third item is an interlocal agreement with the city of Ocean Springs, and that's in conjunction with the 1515 Government Street project, which is that hotel that's being constructed in Ocean Springs. And we're asking for approval of the interlocal agreement there. The difference here is that the city's only issuing approximately not to exceed $1 million in tax increment financing bonds, and the county's pledge here is just 25 of the county's mills as applied to the increment, the increase in the taxes. So this is a little bit different deal that you made on this project since it's a smaller project, but it's just 25 of your mills as applied to your increase in taxes on that project. And so we're asking for approval of the interlocal agreement there.
That's roughly 50%.
Okay. Okay, need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bossarge. Seconded by Mr. Ross. Any discussion, further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And the last item I have is the approval of the termination documents for the Chevron project. And this is back in the early 90s, the county issued refunding bonds for, well, the county issued bonds for Chevron over a number of years, starting in the early 80s. The last series was in 1993 for this project, and they were paid off in June. So under those bond documents, the county needs to transfer back, because of the way that the structure of that transaction, property from Chevron was transferred to the county and then leased back to Chevron, so that now that property under the terms of the documents needs to be transferred back to Chevron, and then the documents, the lease agreement and other documents need to be terminated and canceled. So that's what this resolution does.
Sue, in essence, we're giving Chevron their property back
That's correct.
since they paid the debt off, canceling the leases and other ancillary agreements. And this dates back to the early 80s.
Yes.
And that'll reflect on their assessed value?
I'm sorry?
That'll reflect on their assessed value, I guess.
That's
Since they
a
own it
question.
now instead of lease it.
Yeah, it'll go from leasehold interest to they'll own it, so.
Yeah, they'll own it, yeah.
I made a motion.
Okay, Mr. Cumbus made the motion. We need a second.
I second.
Mr. Morris seconded. Any discussion, further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next under department head is finance.
Good morning. The first item I have is the order approving the claims docket.
So moved.
By Mr. Ross. Seconded by Mr. Bossarge. Discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay. The second item I have is the resolution authorizing the interfund loans for fiscal year September 30th, 2023.
Okay, motion by Mr. Cumbus. I will second it. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay. The last item I have is the resolution authorizing the operating transfers for fiscal year September 30th, 2023 with the addition.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bossarge, seconded by Mr. Cumbus. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8 is several minutes to public health, public hearings scheduled to start at 9 o'clock, so we will come back to that at that time. And we'll go to item number 9, presentations, Port of Pascagoula, the budget. Mr. Etheridge. Welcome to Jackson County.
Thank you. It's good to see you guys again. I appreciate this morning. I want to hand off to you a little bit that you have not seen. I'll come back to referencing this. It's not a change in our budget request or anything. It's documentation for you to review so you have an idea of some of the things that are going on out at the port and the way that we use the budgeted funds that you guys commit to us. So I've been on board for a little over 120 days now as the port director. And in that time, I've had the opportunity to meet with each of you individually. And the things I've shared with you are the commitment that we have at the port and some of the things that we are planning to do as the port director, and that is change the culture of this port and to grow our volume and grow our business here and contribute to the community. In the first 120 days, we've done just that. We have met with many of our customers, many of the state players, MDA, the governor, and let them know that our port is open for business and that we are willing to go out and meet, whether or not we need to get on a plane and travel to New York to meet with customers or to Puerto Rico. We're willing to do that. In the first 120 days, we have set up our community engagement program that we had talked with you guys about and the need to get involved and get our students in our high schools aware of what we're doing. We've got a commitment from all 7 high schools that we will have a career day with RiverWorks Discovery in March, where we'll bring all the high school students out to the port so that they can see what we do, some of the opportunities for them out there, and how that they can get involved and have a career in the maritime side. The other thing we talked about is the need to work with our partners, Chevron, Oleox, and Viva, and show them that we're on board. We've gone out and we've achieved our Green Marine certification, which is we are the last port on the Gulf of Mexico to do that. It is our commitment to sustainability on the port side, showing that we do indeed support this initiative. The other one that we've looked at is really growing the business, and that I think is the biggest thing that I'm here to do. Last week, we had our first call on a ship that had never come to the port of Pascagoula before. It was coming in, it was loaded with lumber going to Haiti and then Puerto Rico. So a new customer for the port, Thomas & Company out of Philadelphia, Mississippi. Met with them the first week of August. We've already worked with them and they've loaded their first ship and then on their way out. Went flawlessly here at the port. The other thing we've done is last Friday we established a commitment from one of the shipping companies. The thing in effort to grow a port, you have to have regular scheduled intervals of ships. So that if you're booking and you're an agent or you're a company, you need to know that a ship's going to be in every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, so that you can schedule your services to your customers and get your product out. We got that commitment Friday of last week, so that's the first commitment that this port has ever had in the past 20 years to have a true liner service coming in and have a weekly call. These are the building blocks, guys. These are the building blocks of how you go out and develop business in our port, things that we just have not been focusing on. So in 120 days, I've delivered on key pieces that we said that we were going to do. But now we got to go out and we got to fix the infrastructure in the port, and that's kind of what you're seeing here. When we come to you and we ask for millage, a lot of this goes back into our infrastructure, into our dredging. And we've talked a lot over the past few weeks with you in the need for dredging, which we are planning to do that in the first quarter of next year. That dredging is going to consist of Bayou Casat, our terminals there, which will support Enviva, will support Oleox, who is now in expansion plans, where they're going to be bringing in ships at the end of November so that they can load ocean-going ships versus barges. And we're also in talks with G2 Ocean, who I met with 2 weeks ago in Atlanta, who is going to be coming in and using our warehouse there. That warehouse is what you see in those pictures. That warehouse hasn't had cargo in 8 years now. Let me say that again. 8 years we have not had cargo in a transit shed that's 175,000 square feet and has rail service in it. Why? If you look at the bottom, you see what's underneath that transit shed, and you see the need for us to improve on our infrastructure. We only do this in the way of grants, operating funds that we receive, and the millage that we get from you. This is why we're going to continue to request your assistance and show you the need that we have here at the port. When we invest in our infrastructure, we're able to recruit new tenants, new customers. Their concern on that shed is 8 years ago when they were out here, a forklift fell through it because of the bottom of it, as you can see, couldn't support the weight. Haven't come back to it since then. We've committed to go out and find the funding to redo this shed, to redo our terminals, and they've committed to come back to Pascagoula and start bringing their product back to it. So again, we're going to take the steps that we need to reinvest, to grow our business, and then to get out and tell the story. I mean, for years, we've been thought of as this sleepy little port, and yet everything that we say says Port of Pascagoula, Mississippi's largest seaport. So let me put that in context. I'm in Fairhope about a month ago at the Tom Bigby River Conference, Waterway Conference, because we have Enviva who's bringing product down by barge down to Tom Bigby, so I wanted to be there to show our support. Captain Mullins, who is the head of the Coast Guard for the Mobile sector, gave a presentation. His presentation in 2022, there were 2,400 ships between Pensacola, Mobile, Pascagoula, Gulfport, and Panama City. His district, 2,400 ships came through his 5 ports. Of those 24, 1,400 came to the Port of Pascagoula. Let's put that in perspective. We think of Gulfport as being our big seaport for the Gulf Coast. Gulfport on average does 10 to 12 vessels a month, 6 to 7 barges. We do 115 to 118 vessels a month. Ships, I shouldn't say vessels, so that you have a clarification. They do 10 to 12 deep draft ships, we do 115 to 118. 6 to 7 barges, we are doing 45 to 60. We have a big economic engine here, but we don't tell our story. And that's the thing that you're going to see us out there changing over the next 12 months, putting the bookends around it, the narrative around it, and showing that the impact that we have as a port to this county is tremendous. But we have to reinvest in it. And we have to take and stop doing some of the things that we've done in the past, which I think we have done. It's part of our culture change, but is also to give you an idea of the direction that we're going. When I met with each of you, I said, I grew up here and I saw 4 or 5 ships a day out on the river terminal. Last week, we had 2 ships over there at one time. We haven't even had that in years. So again, I ask for your commitment. We know what we're looking at this year in terms of budget. We know what we're looking at in terms of the commitments on everybody's end, but understand where we're coming to you over the next 12 months. We're going to share with you the wins that we're having. We're going to share with you the ideas and the prospects that we're talking with, but also we're going to share with you the impact that we have on this community. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I've got a question. I think I'd like to see a follow-up session. I'm not sure if it would be total board, individuals, whatever. Let's review the history of why are we in this condition, and then to be more positive, what's the payout at the other end? And let us evaluate. If we do this, then we can do that, and here's the bottom line of doing that.
It's great. We are going to take in the first quarter of next year, we're going out for a strategic plan, which we'll be doing a full review of our port, which we've already started to do that in terms of engineering. But we can sit down and have those conversations historically, what we have and haven't done in terms of facility maintenance, routine maintenance. But we'll also have a better idea of where we're going and what the next 5 to 10 years is going to look like from an infrastructure need. So we would be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think during this budget cycle, we have encountered several issues of what I'll call deferred maintenance. And
Exactly.
people are just letting property sit and kind of go to waste, and that's not good.
It's not, and you got to climb yourself out of a hole, and that's what we're doing now. I think part of that is, I think from our engineering standpoint, we have facilities engineers that are on staff. We have an engineering team that we've worked with in the past. A lot of these have just been administrative decisions that have decided not to take and reinvest in the port over the past few years. Again, that's culture change and that's leadership change. I look at it and say, I wouldn't be bringing my cargo and putting it in a building if I'm worried about the floors falling through.
Right.
When we look at OleoX and their expansion plans that they want to do, they're going to be on the end of those terminals on our E-dock running pipe underneath. We need to make sure that we can support that. And again, it's just bringing it to everybody's attention and focusing on it and saying, let's reinvest. So.
Good. Anyone else?
Yeah, what's a realistic distance for a customer to travel to a port or distribute from a port? Does that question make
From
sense?
an end user
So
or?
like if a customer's looking for Mobile, Pascagoula, Gulfport, New Orleans, what is the expectation for your radius to be? Like how far out would people ship to you
Yeah.
rather than one of the others? And how far out would they distribute from you rather than one of the others?
If you look at, I'm not going to be evasive in that, but the context is really dependent on what type of cargo you're bringing in. When we look at containers, because that seems to be what everybody thinks about over the road, distribution centers, things like that, you typically look at, you're probably reaching to Memphis, maybe a little bit beyond Memphis in terms of what your true expectations are to bring cargo in. Outside of that, you start looking at Savannah trying to get in closer, or if you're in New Orleans, you're going west, Houston, you're going west, or you're going by rail. For us, our cargo outside of the petroleum side of things has usually been lumber. So that lumber typically comes from the southeastern mills. A lot of them are here in Mississippi, Alabama. We've got some in Tennessee that ship out, but you're within that 8 to 10 hour drive is usually what you're looking at. So now, final destinations could be anywhere around the world. If you look at the ship that was in last week, its first port of call out of here was Port-au-Prince in Haiti. Then it's around to the Dominican. That ship will take and then just kind of circle the Caribbean and then come back. So, does that answer, or is it a little too vague?
Well, yeah, I mean, because you got to look at the capabilities of every port's different too, so that changes the dynamic. But I was just kind of wanting a general overview of like, what kind of reach do you have that's realistic? 10 hours, I guess, is the answer.
But you have to look at all the functionalities and the different modes of transportation. I mean, you've got
How close you are to rail and how the rail connects to us versus Gulfport or
rail
Mobile.
goes up through Canada, so we're bringing product by rail through Canada. But that's going to be, you've got 2 Class 1s that come into the port of Pascagoula. You've got 6 Class 1s that come into New Orleans. You've got 5 that come into Mobile. It's a distribution hub that just goes out. The difference in when you look at break bulk, which is typically what we do in our port, versus containers. Break bulk is very specific project type cargo. So it's not set up in terms of that typical, if you were bringing in a container that says, I'm going to this warehouse in Atlanta, or I'm going to this warehouse in Memphis, or this warehouse in Jackson to be split up and then sent out. Project cargo is usually coming from one area to a destination such as a port for either export or import. So it just varies in that regard. And it usually is going to be based on where your ship call is and where the ships are going and how frequent are they visiting your port.
Some of the other companies you've been talking to also that ship their product not through Mississippi companies that doesn't ship their product through Mississippi, they ship it somewhere else. So you're talking to some other Mississippi companies about shipping their product through here. Yeah.
One of the things that, I will say that I would love to see Mississippi change is some of the incentives that they have out there to go through our ports here, Gulfport and Pascagoula. And then again, a lot of it goes back to what I was saying, the different type products that you have and what you're shipping out. But we do a lot in terms of the state of Mississippi. A lot of exporting is going out of Savannah, a lot of exporting is going out of New Orleans, and a lot of export is going out of Mobile. We'd love to see that come to Pascagoula. We would love to see that come to Gulfport. But then you have to also look at the economics of it and what are the ship calls that we have. You know, Gulfport is set up in their trade lines with the fruit and bananas, and so that's a pretty established pattern, so you're not going to get ships deviating off that too much. Ours is in the lumber side on the break bulk going down into the Caribbean, into South America. So you've got to establish those new lines so that you can go out to the Mississippi companies who are exporting vehicles or exporting poultry or exporting other type commodities that are going containerized and saying, well, we can go to Savannah because once we hit Savannah or once we hit New Orleans, we have a ship call that's going out within 2 to 3 days versus if they're coming to the port of Pascagoula, they're 30 days before a ship comes in. So that's a lot of what drives where they're going and what drives how we would have to change some of our operations here in Pascagoula to go after the Mississippi companies. But I think that's part of what we will see in our strategic plan as we develop that. I would love to see Mississippi products go out of Mississippi ports.
Me too.
But it's education.
Okay, anything else? Very good. Then we need a resolution, an order to approve the proposed budget of the Port of Pascagoula for fiscal year 23-24.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bossarge. Seconded by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Brian, I think you have added a B to this
Yes,
presentation.
Don is here to talk about the health plan and a few things we need to get approved and a little issue with our premier contract.
Brian said I got two items to bring up before the board today. The first thing is 2 weeks ago, y'all approved the reinsurance contract, and I have the disclosure statement that we have to prepare for that. So I just need a signature on that, whether the board president wants to sign it or Brian sign it. I just need this to be signed. This is something we don't give y'all copies of because this is PHI information. It's got employees' names and health conditions on it, but I need a signature to sign this, to be signed, and then in 45 days or so, we'll actually get the actual reinsurance contract that Mr. Conway will review once we do that actual contract. But I need a signature on this. But this is what y'all approved 2 weeks ago.
Get Mr. Taylor to sign that.
Do we need to authorize the signature again? Or is it already?
I can do the titles. This is my signature.
Signature.
A lot of this page that see attached sheet, that's all the attached sheet, and the signature on that.
John, we've been copying that from you.
Yeah.
And we voted to do this in the past.
Last meeting.
Okay.
Just one copy of it, so we'll copy the pattern. Just be careful because it's got company information. Just what it said. Just what it said. Okay. Yeah, you can copy this. Okay. The second item I want to discuss with the board was when we were here approving the all your insurance for renewal for your 10-1 contract, your Premier Health contract is up for renewal. You had a 3-year contract, and I told you 2 weeks ago that they would be bringing a contract for y'all to approve this week. You got to understand the Premier Health contract has two components of it. It has the hospital contract for inpatient hospital, outpatient hospital, and then the second component is the physician fee schedules. And I mentioned last week that we had some physicians that came back and wanted increases on that. We kind of negotiated a couple of them. I made my offer. Well, since then, the hospital side contract, inpatient, outpatient, that's not changing. The hospital's already agreed to that. But the Premier Health Board got so much feedback from some of the physicians. Some of the physicians are not wanting to accept the the fee schedule. I went back and tried to work with some of them. A couple of them are still balking that they hadn't had an increase on that in 7 to 8 years. So in effort, because of the short time frame, I asked the Premier Health Board to give us an extension of that contract for 90 days so we can finish negotiating that. And I've got copies here. I've sent one to Brian, your attorney. That's just a letter back from the Premier Health Board that basically says we're going to extend your current contract for 90 days so we can finish negotiating with the physician side. We have some physicians that want to get out of the network, and that's not going to be good for your employees to do that. So I don't want to just agree with what they're offering because I think some of the fees are too high. It gives me time to negotiate and try to get what I think is fair for the county and its employees. So they just gave us a 90-day extension. My initial thought is I think I can probably get this stuff done in 2 weeks, but I've asked them for a 90-day extension in case it doesn't happen in 2 weeks. So that's just the approval from the Premier Health Board authorizing that extension. So you don't need to vote on that. I'm just letting you know that was a change from what we presented 2 weeks ago.
I think we do need to vote on it.
I think we probably need to vote on
Okay.
agreeing to the extension.
Extension, you're correct. You're correct.
What we voted on last time, if that was inclusive of the new rates and that kind of thing, but under this extension, we're going back to the existing contract.
Correct. We're not changing what's currently in place. They're going to renew it as the last 3-year contract you have, to extend it for 90 more days.
So I think we took some action last week that had some new physician codes and new rates and stuff in
Yes.
there. So I don't know if we need to rescind that and then approve this 90-day extension.
I don't think that what we did last meeting affects that, does it, John?
Well, the new codes and everything that we talked about last meeting are not the same as what's in this contract extension.
Correct. I don't know that we approved those, though, did we?
Well, I know you approved the renewal of the health plan, so I guess probably that's part of the health plan. Those are all.
We didn't approve the contract, though, so
Correct.
maybe you're right.
Yeah, because we said the Premier Health contract would come
Correct.
back in 2 weeks. So I don't know if you voted on it or not, but it's up to the board, not me, so.
I think we're okay. Let's just approve these, the contract extension.
What we need, Mr. Taylor, is a motion to extend the Premier Health contract for 90 days from and after, what, October 1, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, need a motion? Mr. Cumbus made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Ross seconded.
So that means that when we get to the new contract, it'll only be a 9-month contract.
No, it's gonna be a 3-year contract, but
Well, I mean, it'll be a 9-month.
Well, it'll be
that
2
year-
years and 9 months, correct.
But it won't change any kind of deductibles or that'll
No,
roll
no, that's-
into it with the
no,
3
it's
months.
only the physician codes, and there's thousands of physician codes. It's only gonna change the codes that we have built in our system.
So
Any of the benefits to the employees or the premiums or any of that. It would just be the contract that we have and what we pay out as part of a claim.
As far as your rates and the benefits to employees, none of that changes.
do we ever, like when we're negotiating these rates and the codes and all those things, do we just keep going back to the people who are already in it, or do we ever throw the net a little bit wider and see if other people are interested?
Yeah, the Premier Health contract is about 75 to 80 physician clinics in Jackson County. Those clinics may have 6 or 8 different doctors in that thing, but we're talking about 75 or so physician clinics. Most of the ones in Jackson County are part of that because it's part of the Singing River Hospital system. So I don't know that we could extend it any further or not. One of the reasons we get the rates we get is you don't want to start going into Harrison County and everything else, because the reason they're agreeing to those lower rates is because we're steering patients to Singing River and they're affiliated doctors. So we don't really want to extend it beyond that. If we're going to do that, then we need to get a much bigger network, which is going to cost more money. So you have a better contract because you have steerage to those doctors and hospitals.
So if I remember correctly from the last meeting, some of the doctors were not wanting to take the Medicare reimbursement rate. They want a little more.
That's correct.
Yeah, so how much?
And, you know, rightly so, some of those haven't been changed in 7, 8 years, so, you know, I'm trying to do what's best for the county, keep those as low as I can, but now you have doctors saying if that's what it is, I'm getting out of the network, and I don't want it to affect your employees, because that's who it's gonna affect.
We're gonna take a deeper dive into all that and see.
So you got there's a breaking point where we're saving money because we're steering, but if you get to where you're not really saving money for steering, then there's no reason to steer anymore.
Correct, correct, and that's when we look at another network. If they're not gonna be more competitive than what I get on the open market, then there's no need to do that anyway.
Right.
So, and I think I'm probably gonna get Brian a little bit more involved toward the end, because it needs to be, the contract's between the hospital and the county. I'm just trying to act on your behalf, so I probably need to get, when I get close to the end, I probably need to get Brian more involved to get more the county side to agree to it, so y'all understand what we're doing.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have not voted. Okay. No further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you, John.
Okay, we'll move to item number 10, supervisor items. The first item is a resolution appointing Mr. Fulton to the Singing River Health System Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bossarge.
Before he changes his mind.
I'll second it.
I'm distracted and I'm talking to him while you do it.
Is there any discussion on that item?
Get out of it.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, District 1 Supervisor, under Supervisor Items, Mr. Cumbus.
Yep, we have two. The first one is a resolution accepting the resignation of Tommy Eldridge from the Jackson County Planning Commission, and I'll make that motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bossarge. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. I
Opposed?
do want to say, Tommy's been there a long time.
Yeah.
Josh, you remember how long?
He was 20-something years.
He's
but-
been there, yeah, I think close to 30 really, but he's
Was
done
it
a great
30
job.
years? Yeah.
Tommy's done a great
Yeah.
job.
Appreciate his service. Okay, did I say?
Yeah,
all
and I
in
have
favor?
one more.
Yeah, well, okay, is anyone
vote yet, yeah.
opposed? Like sign? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next item.
I have a resolution appointing J. Stewart White to the Jackson County Planning Commission, and I'll make that motion.
Seconded by Mr. Ross. Any discussion? Not all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. Morris, you have none. I have none. Mr. Ross, you have none. Mr. Bossarge.
Well, let me squeeze in a discussion since we got a little time
Sure.
before. I hate to put you on the spot, Joe, but, North Tucker, is there anything else we can do with the traffic flow on North Tucker?
I looked at it, been down there in the morning, down now to about an hour in the morning, an hour after that is good. But normally about from 5 to about 6 on Tucker. And then in the morning on Glendale, it's about 7 to about 8. Randy, I've had a couple people call worried about accidents, Glendale getting onto Tuckers, or something we can do to warn people or slow them down, or?
Yeah.
We've got signage on that job starting a mile before you ever get there. We got flashing signs, we've got four-way stops. Now, the biggest problem is at the four-way stop at Seaman and Glendale. Anybody coming south, don't stop. They just make the loop. But we've got signs a mile before you get there, and flashing signs and billboards. I don't know what we're gonna do with that. Now, Glendale, in the mornings at Glendale, there's been 2 accidents there. One of them was a rear end, one of them a guy just pulled out in front of somebody. And I've been down there several mornings and sat and watched. And it actually flows pretty good because the light actually gives them a break at the interstate. It cycles through with the light, the traffic coming out. But like I say, about an hour in the morning, about an hour in the evening is the worst of it.
Do you think one of our billboards or something, the flashing things would
Got
help?
them up. Got them up.
them
Got on either end
Maybe
of
they
them.
just don't read it or pay attention.
Don't pay any
So
attention to it.
when they're not working, especially around the interstate, is there any way we can move those cones and open up the traffic, or?
That is strictly gonna be on the contractor, because he is responsible for traffic control. We talked about it before they did it, and like I say, a lot of people are starting to bypass it.
Right,
They're going
right.
down Walker, or they're going into Harrison County and coming around on Daisy Vestry side. I've noticed that.
Who's the contractor on that?
That's Holden.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Holden.
I'll talk to Doug and
But
see if
it's-
there's anything we can do.
You know, if you move it in the evenings and then here they come in the mornings, you know, I mean, like I say, it's about an hour in the evening, an hour in the morning. It's been the worst of it. But I think we've done about all we can do right now.
Like there's nobody out there working Saturday, and if we had those cones moved out of the way, you know, if traffic would flow.
I'll mention it to our engineers and see, you know.
All right. Yeah, let's see if we can do something when there's no workers present. Can we just move them out of the way and let the traffic flow? You know, and then, of course, when workers are there, we'll block off. what we
I'll
have to
mention it
block
to our
off.
engineers.
Okay.
I'll see them this week.
Man, that'd be great, because we got, if this is gonna be another 60 to 90 days, we gotta do something when they're not working to help flow it.
I'll mention it to them, see if we can come up with something.
And I have reached out to the sheriff, and the sheriff he's got more of a presence out there with his traffic guys, so,
Like I
trying to
said-
curb the speeders and the running the stop sign folks.
The ones coming southbound
Yeah.
at Seaman and Glendale's the ones that don't stop. They just make the loop and keep rolling.
Okay, all right, well, yeah, let's talk to them and see if we can't do that when they're not working. Yeah.
Will do.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
I don't think it would be reasonable to go into executive session for 10 minutes. And I see nothing else on the agenda to do before our public hearings.
The minute to talk about the Songwriters Festival, since
Sure.
we got a minute.
Sure.
I got some flyers on that to hand out to you all, but the Songwriters Festival starts this week in Ocean Springs and in Goshen. The doors open to the theater Thursday night at 6:30 at the Mary C, and the show starts at 7. There'll be a lot of people from across the state there. There'll be a lot of legislators there. There'll be some statewide elected officials, and they like to bring in those people and be a part of the festival. And so if you guys can be there, that'd be good. And a lot of the times they'll get you on stage and let you take pictures with some of the artists and those kind of things. But that is going on. It starts Thursday night as kind of the kickoff, and then it'll be going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Ocean Springs and Goshen. It's at the Mary C. O'Keefe at the theater there. There is a reception that starts at 5:30 that y'all would be invited to as well. So we'll tell the community that too, is about the festival. It brings people in from Nashville and from all over Mississippi and other states into our area. It's a tourism thing, and if you like music, it's kind of a cool thing to be a part of.
Okay. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep, it is.
I think it's always surprising what songs that we've heard on the radio numerous times written by someone who's local, and you didn't know it.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else? Okay, we will not recess, we'll just have a pause until 10 o'clock.
I made the comment.
Okay, it is 10 o'clock. Let's reconvene, please.
It's being done, you know.
All right, Mr. Marcus.
Good morning. The first item I have is 3412 Riverland in Moss Point. As Luke passes you pictures out of this property.
Thank you. I think that's pretty safe. There's no
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Luke.
At least you ain't gonna have no homeless people in there. There's nothing in there.
This property is in the estate of Arthur Meyer. The owner is deceased. We've had no correspondence with anyone on this. We've reached out to any family members. We haven't had no response. This house is a burned down house.
I asked you if it had burned. It looked
Yeah,
like it.
if you look through the pictures, 2 or 3 of them in, will show you the structure itself. It's completely burned.
Oh, yeah, you see that.
And it is in a flood zone. 2021 taxes were paid by Bannister Publishing Enterprises and 2022. So we've notified them also of this minutes hearing.
Now, how does it be in the state? Does that affect it, Marcus? Can we do what we need to do?
I'm assuming not. We send all this to April prior, and April sends us back a list of who we need to notify, and we send out the notifications based on what she sends us, so we did all that.
Okay.
I did talk to, Mr. Cummins, I did talk to April, I think maybe a month or 2 ago about that, and we discussed it, and I think the way that it's being done is appropriate
Okay, all right.
for these estates.
Yes, sir. So we're asking the board to declare this a menace so we can get this property cleaned up.
Okay. We ready? I'll make that motion, Marcus.
Okay, well, is there anyone here to speak for the property? Come on.
We agree with what?
Well, speak into the mic, please, and identify yourself. Thank you.
Mike Wall, W-A-U-G-H. I live across the road and Mr. Turner lives beside this house. And, since that thing burned down and that boy ended up in jail, the thugs from down the road, I'll just use that term, they've been stealing, coming down there all hours of the day and night, stealing stuff. Engine motors, they took his truck, his motorcycle, anything they get their hands on down there.
Yeah.
And Mr. Myers also owned the house next door. And it's not burnt, but it's wide open, nobody's in it, they go in there, plunder through it, and the neighbors and everybody in the area right there, we're just concerned about them, because when they run out of stuff in there to steal, they're not coming down there with blinders on, they're looking at everybody else's properties and seeing what they've got, laid out and stuff. And 'cause, I've called them several times from the empty house on the other street and coming out of here, with stuff, and I'd call the sheriff's department,
Okay.
But, yeah, it is a concern.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, now, he actually spoke in favor of the tearing it down. Is there anyone
And also, I wanted
here?
to say that the house that he's talking about, we have a case on that house also.
Okay.
Of course, our process is not a quick process. We have a lot of letters we have to send out, we have to take them to court before we get to this point, so it takes a little while.
Yeah. But you hear what he said, he's working on it, on the other one too. Okay.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we had a motion by Mr. Cumbus, seconded by Mr. Bossarge. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries.
As he said, it takes a little time to get it tore down, but we will get it tore down.
Yeah, our next process will be the purchasing department will go out and we'll send contractors out to get bid. then that'll come back before the board, they'll accept the bid, and then they'll do the work. So probably a couple of months.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is scheduled for 10:10. I guess we have to wait 5 minutes.
We're moving too fast.
I know.
Hey, can we have your?
Too bad you can't go the other way.
Sure.
You know, if we go over, we just keep rolling through them, but you can't go backwards and go faster.
We'll wait till 10:10 to make the announcement.
Okay. I've got 10:10, let's move on.
Okay, the next item on the agenda I have is 12700 Timberwood Drive in Van Cleve, PIDN 02915010.168. We're going to pull that one from the agenda. This property was recently sold, and it was sold just prior to us sending out the notices, and it was not, April said it was not on I guess the computer system when she did the search. So we found this out, just the end of the week, when we were, rechecking everything before the meeting. We found out that it's a new property owner. So we're gonna have to pull this one. We're gonna have to go back and send it to the new property owner now, so.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to take this one off.
Okay.
So it's like we're waiting 10 minutes now.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. We could shorten it down to 5.
Okay, 10:20.
Okay, the next item I have on the agenda is 8709 Larkspur Street, Moss Point, 39563. The parcel number is 011032330.000. And as you can see from the pictures, and I think Mr. Cumbus went out to this property with us and looked at it, and he can contest, this place is terrible. It's nasty. It is, it's wide open to the element, it's full of mold, it's unrepairable. It's definitely a menace to the neighborhood. And actually, this is about the fourth one we cleaned up in that general vicinity.
Yeah.
And we still got some to go, but, we're trying to get that area cleaned up, and I think it's making a difference. But this property is just way beyond repair, and we're asking the board to declare it. Now, the property owner is Scott Randall. Of course, his last known address was this property, so we didn't have any other address to send any notification. But it was sold to TLGFY LLC in 2020 and also 2021. And then 2022, Kell Farms LLC paid the taxes on it. So notification was sent to them as well.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone here representing that property? Is there anyone here who would like to speak for the property or would like to speak to clean up the property? There is no one here. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we declare a menace to public health.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Cumbus, seconded by Mr. Morris. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we have one at 10:30, and that one is also, we're not going to pull it. It's actually clean. So since we sent out the notifications, they've cleaned that property up. But we'll make that announcement at 10:30.
We wanted to come down, and since I've joined a new firm with Cornerstone Government Affairs, wanted to introduce you to some of our team that'll be working on your behalf at the Capitol come January. So go ahead.
My name is Drew Maddox. I'm a principal at Cornerstone Government Affairs. I've been there 4 years now. Before that, I was the CFO of the Department of Revenue for about 3 years in Jackson. Before that, I worked for the State Senate for about almost 10 years, specifically on the Appropriations Committees as an extension of Governor Reeves' office while he was Lieutenant Governor. I was kind of his budget guy, so for better or for worse, I learned a lot, and I'm happy to be here, happy to be working with you guys. So.
Thank you. I'm Neil Lancaster. I'm the newest associate at Cornerstone. I graduated from Ole Miss and worked for the Mississippi House of Representatives in the clerk's office for 2 years, and then went to law school, just finished law school, and took the bar and joined Cornerstone in August. I've interned with them for the past 2 sessions, and this session will put me at about six sessions so far, so I'm really looking forward to getting to know y'all and doing great work with y'all.
Very good. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think we've got 2 other folks that could not be down here today, Camille Young and Elliot Flaggs. So I think we've got a great team of folks who can work for y'all's interests come January, and we can talk a little more about what that looks like another time. But wanted to make sure you knew these guys.
Yeah,
All right.
very good.
Yes, sir.
Pleased to meet y'all.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 7952 Astor Street, Moss Point, 39563, parcel number 0110360.090. This property was directly across from Larkspur, the one that we showed last time, and it was a dilapidated mobile home. I don't actually have the photographs to show you up top, but since we sent out the notices for this menace, they've cleaned the property. So,
I saw that.
yeah, we're gonna, I just pull this one off the agenda also, dismiss this one.
Yeah, I was out there a week and a half ago, I guess, and I saw him. So, well, he woke up, didn't he?
Yeah, it's nice to see somebody that actually,
Yeah.
do something when you send them notices.
Yeah. Had to threaten them, oh, didn't we? They had to threaten them, oh, didn't we?
Absolutely.
Okay, 9 more minutes and we can wrap this up. 1040.
Okay, the last one we have on the agenda is Pool Road. There's not an address associated with this property. Parcel number 011231110.125. This property is owned by a Jewel Shannon Smith. The last address that we had for her was on Joe Hamilton Road in Grand Bay. I really don't know what happened here. I think these people just decided to set up camp. They brought in travel trailers, and you can tell that they've been doing scrapping, and it looks like a bomb exploded out there. We've never been able to catch anybody there. They've got a couple of dogs tied up. That's the only thing that we've ever seen. But we've left violations on the camper trailers. We've had no response from them, and when I tell you it's bad, it's bad. So we're asking the board to clean this up. There's never been a house or anything on this parcel of property, so it looks to me like it's some kind of drug people or something that's doing all this.
It is terrible shape. I rode out there. There's stuff scattered everywhere.
It is. And actually on both sides of the road
Yeah.
and in the ditches. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But we're asking the board to declare this a menace so we can get this cleaned up. And also, the property was paid by a Wilburn Golf, but it was redeemed by Jewel Smith this year. So she did pay her taxes.
Okay. She's out of Grand Bay.
Yes, sir. Her address was 14220 Lot C on Joe Hamilton Road in Grand Bay. Of course, we did send notice there also, and we had no response back from anybody.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone here that would like to speak for the property? Is there anyone here who would like to speak against the property? There is no one here to speak at all about the property, so let us proceed.
I make a motion we declare it a menace to public health.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Cumbus, seconded by Mr. Bossarge. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Dogs out there every time you go out there, Marcus?
Sir?
Are those dogs out there every time you go out there?
Every time.
Somebody patrol to pick them up, huh?
And they're all tied up and
Yeah.
tied under the trailers and just, it's pretty bad. Yeah, when we clean it up, we will call animal control.
Thank y'all, Marcus.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Well, that mistreatment of the animals sounds like that violates one of the laws somewhere.
I would think so. Yeah, when we go out to clean it up, that happens all the time. There's usually animals or something. We call animal control and they'll come pick them up.
Good. Okay, we are now ready to go to item number 11 on the agenda. That is the closed session to determine if we need to have an executive session.
So moved.
You got a motion by Mr. Cumbus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Morris. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We are in closed session.